racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
SIX very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to Imola, the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. It is Imola 500 weekend in the virtual racing school V8SCOPS series, which means this Friday night it's time for the 10th round of the V8SCOPS support series presented by RacingSims.co.nz. We've got the flat sixes and the trucking legends out there on track tonight. 2 21-lap races for the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup. Hello everyone, I am Rhys Gardiner, and joining me in the commentary box on this side is Bradley Wingard. Brad, it's the first time we're appearing on camera for a broadcast intro, and this is something that we'll probably be doing going forward in the V8SCOPS Enduros, but Imola, what a fantastic circuit, what a fantastic way to get this night off to an excellent start. It's a beautiful circuit, lots of chicanes, very tough curbs, and in these flat sixes, it's a pretty difficult circuit to make your way around.
Yeah, it's hi Reese, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here. It's a track that you can't really get a bad combination with. It's good in V8s, it's good in GT3 car, Formula 1, Porsche Cup, and this was our second broadcast together when we did the VRS race, and that was a cracker, so I'm very much looking forward to what the Porsche Cup brings tonight.
As am I. This is the map of the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, peppered with chicanes since 1995, when it was modified after the tragic 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, where Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger unfortunately lost their lives around the initial very fast layout of this track. But there's quite a few overtaking opportunities around here, particularly at Tamburello, at the hairpin of Tosa. You can also stick one up the inside at Piratella, maybe Acca Minerale if you're brave, and Variante Alta as well. The last overtaking opportunity on the track, the Rivazza turns, the double left to end the lap here. And we're running the Grand Prix layout, Brad, which means no chicane on the start-finish stretch. It's just a long, flat-out run from Rivazza to Tamburello, which means you gain a ton of speed.
Yeah, and these cars are notorious for giving a nice big slipstream, so that exit out of turn 18, the second part of Rivazza, is going to be extra important around here, because these cars don't have a lot of aero, but they punch a big hole in the air, so that draft down that main straight is going to make some awesome passes into the Tamburello chicane.
Absolutely it is. Well, pit speed limit, a very sedate 60 kilometers an hour, but the drivers aren't going to have to worry too much about that, because the racing tonight is completely pit stop free. We've got 2 21-lap races, as I said, here in the Flat 6 series, and just an out-and-out sprint, 100 kilometers, and it's going to be a bit of a shake-up for race 2, as we've seen in the last couple of rounds. All the cars that finish on the lead lap will be reversed for the race 2 starting grid, which should certainly spice things up, Brad.
Yeah, the last race I did of this was at Alton Park, and that reverse grid race for race 2 was an absolute blast. So it's a very close championship. We'll go through the points very shortly, but the reverse grid here is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Indeed it is, and Thomas Hens, of course, in the lead of the championship versus Riley Preston, 63 points behind, and Preston, some were thinking would be the absolute favourite to win the championship. Bo Albert was really pressuring him early on, but Thomas Hens has had an excellent run of good results. He's been able to keep finishing it in the podium positions and keep that points gap where it needs to be. And for the likes of Riley Preston, he's going to have to start not only putting that car in those high positions, taking those wins, but he's going to have to start hoping that Hinsey has a bit more bad luck and finishes further down the order.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Not that we wish bad luck on anyone, but the drivers themselves will be hoping for a little bit, no doubt. And a track like this, the first section of proper corners, obviously the kink at turn 1 doesn't really count, but Tamburello on lap 1 can be very, very hit and miss in a lot of races. So coming in out of turn 4 down towards Villeneuve could be very beneficial for a lot of drivers tonight.
It certainly could. We take a look coming out of Acqua Minerale at Simon Mazzomo, who was my co-commentator for previous rounds of the series, but he's decided to take a bit of a step back from comms duties and do a bit more racing of his own. So I'm interested to see how Mez does out there. He's currently 13th in this qualifying session. 2-minute .461 is the lap time that he has, and that is not representative. The top times that we're seeing are 1-minute 43s, low 143s, high 142s for Riley Preston in practice, and Preston has yet to set a time, so there's still plenty to play for here in the last 8.5 minutes of this qualifying session, and Mazzomo gets onto a 1-minute 44 for the lap time, which is good to see. Certainly puts him up the order. He is now in 5th place.
5th place is not bad at all inside for turn 1. Riley Preston comes along now with a 43.029, just quicker. 031, sorry. So gains a little bit of time on that lap. Kobe Jones heading up to, or through Variante Alta and now one of my favourite parts of the track. You can use so much of that curb and really get a bit of air, especially we'll see that in the 500 this weekend in the supercars, just how much air they get. This run down towards Ravazza is deceivingly difficult because the downhill braking zone and that exit of turn 18 coming up is so important for the lap. So taking it nice and slow as he starts his 5th lap he'll be coming onto now.
Yeah, Ravazza, it's crucial that you get the exit right, because the second Ravazza turn's actually a little faster than the first one. Yeah, you might have to dab the brakes a little bit to get it turned in, but you can carry quite a bit of speed onto the start-finish stretch. So Jones now towards Tamburello, the chicane here, first one to start off the lap. You've got to be careful of these curves here. You notice the speed bumps by the side of these curves as Matt Danson is going to come across the line, set a 44.532. So initial jump up there for Matt Danson. He was in the 42.9s in the practice session, just shadowing Riley Preston. So expect great things there from the oval racer. But you can see it again demonstrating there through Tamburello, and you'll see it through Villeneuve here as well. Those speed bumps on the insides of these curves, you've got to be very careful over the curves here, because if you hit one of those speed bumps wrong, especially in a car like this with very simple suspension, you're just going to be going around.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. I think Tamburello catches a lot of people off, but I think Villeneuve is probably just as, if not more, dangerous, because you've only got the 2 apexes rather than the 3. And the third apex of Tamburello is relatively flat, but that second apex of Villeneuve sets you up for the run into Tosa. So a lot of guys will be taking as much of that as they can, but like you said, it's very easy to catch a bit too much, and once you do, the front wheels just launch off the ground, and once they're off the ground, you can't exactly turn the car. So it's very fine edge to get that extra tenth through that corner.
And Danson, you see, was really vaulting over the curbs at Variante Alta as well. Let's see if he commits to this lap. Kobe Jones has not committed to the lap that we saw him start. He's pulled it back into the pits. Of course, the no escape rule is active. You'll have to bring it back into the pit lane and not stop out on track and escape back to the garage, otherwise you'll get a penalty. So Matt Danson then, looks like that lap is going to be a 1-minute 43.059 rather, as the timing updates, and that is P2 for Matt Danson. Riley Preston, meanwhile, have a look at that lap from him, faster than he ran in practice. So Preston's making a big statement here. It's going to be up to the likes of Danson, Jones, and Hinz to respond.
Yeah, it's very close at the top. We have 1.5 tenths pretty much, or 2 tenths separating the top 3, which is a bit more than you would expect, but that main straight down in towards Tamburello is going to make all of that null and void come the race. Dan Yeaman on stream at the moment on the run down to Aquaminerale, and in that, if I don't say so myself, they're very pretty drop bear car with the cozy on the side.
Yes, indeed. Of course, Brad, a member of the Drop Bear Motorsports outfit, as Yeaman makes his way up to Alta now. The high chicane, and looking very smooth over the first part of the chicane there. He might have taken it a bit easy through there, and he's obviously having a bit of a chat too, so it seems that he's maybe abandoned this lap and is looking to set up another, but he's still carrying a good amount of speed there into the Ravazza turns. Let's see if he ends up pulling into the pits or completing this run. It looks like it's the pit lane for Daniel Yeaman, who we were chatting to just before we went live. And Yeaman has had some pretty good results here in this series. Made his debut at Donington and took a race win for his troubles as well. Benjamin Faulkner for Race on Oz, demonstrating how easy it is to get the car shaking over those curbs. If you hit them wrong, then there's going to be a lot of oscillations going through the car. So you've got to be very precise with how you hit the bumps around a circuit like this. And Faulkner, unfortunately, a bit too much throttle there. Maybe got the rear end loose under brakes through Ravazza and just swinging it around. Very easy to do in a Porsche with that engine hanging over the rear axle.
Yeah, very easy, especially that run through the Ravazza corners. You see another car spinning.
Scott Stevens.
Everyone's really starting to push now. We've only got 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in qualifying, so everyone's really trying to get that last lap in. See Thomas Hinds, championship leader, through Ravazza now. Last lap was a 1:43.5 for Hinds. Comes up towards the start line now. A 1:43.7, so it goes a little bit slower, but not by much.
Well, Thomas Hinds will not be too happy with that with only 2 minutes left in the session. He can still make it around to start another lap before this point, but I'm wondering if he'll be able to nail it. We're on board, meanwhile, with Luke Swan, who is currently P5. It's 3/10 off Thomas Hinds, and it looks like he's abandoned that lap. It looks like Yeaman making his way through. Scott Stevens just behind him as well for the Fusion Sim Racing outfit. Kobe Jones, P3 as it stands, and I think he's coming around to start a lap here or finish one. We'll see what it's like across the line here for him. It's going to be a 1:43.2, so no improvement there, but he's still got 1:20 on the clock. He'll be able to finish this lap.
Yeah, I was watching his sector times. He was quite fast through the middle of the lap, so maybe it was just the first section or last section that was a bit slow. He's run wide at Tamburello now, so I think that's his run done. We follow Isaac Edwards now in the race on Ozcast. Currently 14th in qualifying, 1:46.56 is his best. Did a 46.8 last lap, so hoping now that the tyres are up to temp, he can gain a little bit of extra lap time.
Looks like Thomas Hinds has had a spin coming out of the Ravazza turns, so I think that's his run at pole position over. Meanwhile, we see Adam Moore making his way into the pit lane from 12th. It looks like that is where it's going to be secured for him, where he's going to start. As we check out Kobe Jones, let's see if he can nail this lap, try and pressure Riley Preston and Matt Danson. All he needs to make up is a couple of hundredths, and he'll have beat Danson. It's going to be a bit more of a tall order to beat Riley Preston with that 2/10 gap out there in front. It looks like he's actually slowed down there on the run to the Ravazza turns. So that's Kobe Jones' qualifying done. Daniel Yeaman then, let's see what he can do. Keeping it well within track limits. Got to be careful of the good old off-track 1X here at Imola, particularly on the exit of Acca Minerali that he just went through. If you take a little bit too much of that green curb, you go too far beyond the white lines, you're going to get hit with a slowdown penalty. Maybe not an off-track in some places, but definitely a slowdown. So, the Drop Bear Motorsport driver into the last couple of turns here. Yeaman is currently on a 1 minute 43.901. P6 as it stands. Let's see if there's any improvement here for him. He needs to make up 400ths to beat Luke Swan to P5. Keeps it all the way over to driver's right. Tighten up the line, run to the line. That's going to be a 1 minute 43.625, and he moves up into P5 as a result. Was not quite able to beat Thomas Hins, but I think Yeaman's still going to be quite happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke Swan was on track behind him, and from my timing, he was up on his time, so I'm not sure why he's come in the pits, but Benjamin Faulkner is our last car on track at the moment. I believe he is on a lap still, coming down towards Ravazza for the final time. Checkered flag is out, of course, so this is last chance for Benjamin here, coming round turn 18 now. Pretty good exit, a little bit of curb, helps straighten the car up, and should hug the tight line, and he does. Quickest way down the straight in qualifying is through the inside. He does a 1:43.7, which moves him up in front of Luke Swan.
P6 there for Benjamin Faulkner. Congratulations. That's a very good way for the session to end for the Race on Oz driver. Well then, with qualifying complete, it seems once again that Riley Preston is the man to beat, but Matt Danson and Kobe Jones incredibly close on times. Looking forward to seeing if there's going to be an intense battle for the top 3 positions here in the flat sixes at Imola. So, while we have the time, let's go through very quickly the qualifying results. Riley Preston setting a 1 minute 42.875, beating his time from practice to take pole position. Matt Danson, 1 minute 43.059. Kobe Jones, 1:43.079. Incredibly close between those two. Thomas Hins completes the second row. Daniel Yeaman and Benjamin Faulkner make up row 3. It's Luke Swan and Simon Mazzomo who start out of 7th and 8th. Jaden Mollenhauer puts the 9.21 in P9, and Scott Stevens, the sole representative of Fusion Sim Racing tonight, making it the top 10. And Reese Harnell and Adam Moore rounding out the top 12.
Mark Noble and Isaac Edwards fill row 7. John Courtney and Ben Christensen row 8. Henry King, Anthony Green, Adam Gardner and Shane Best all no laps for qualifying. That makes our 20-car grid.
Indeed, and I believe Ben Christensen and Henry King are our race control in the session here tonight. So let's see then if they end up making an appearance and this race ends up getting pushed out a little bit in terms of time. Standing start, as per usual here in the Porsches, and haven't seen Matt Danson in a Porsche before. He's usually very active on the oval side of things, but he started to do a bit more road course racing as of recent for Altus Esports there. Riley Preston, though, has plenty of experience in these cars, and he certainly knows how to get one off the line. Let's see then, as everyone lines up. Very short gridding time here at Imola, and we can definitely see that there's plenty of space for the drivers to make moves if one of them bogs down off the line, but it's going to be a tall order to try and get past someone into Tamburello. It's a very open turn to start off the lap, and if you run side by side, then one of you is likely going to be going off. So 10 seconds to go before we get a run here at Imola. The RacingSims.co.nz Flat 6 Support Series for V8SCOPS in 2021. The revs will begin rising in just a moment. Who's going to get the best start here? Can Danson pull a surprise? What about Jones and Hins behind? And away we go, and it looks like a poor start for Riley Preston. That initial launch did not go to plan. Matt Danson is going to draw level with him as they come into the braking zone for the first turn. There's already a crash behind. We've got 2 cars together, Simon Mazzomo and Luke Swan, and that's backed them up into the rest of the pack. My goodness, it's side by side between Danson and Jones for second. Riley Preston has managed to hold on to the lead as they come out of Tamburello for the first time. Trying up the inside of Matt Danson is Daniel Yeaman at the Villeneuve chicane, but cannot get the move done. Maybe at Tosa with this over-under move. Danson a bit compromised through the corner as just behind Thomas Hinds, trying his best to hold on to a position here. He has not been able to get off to the start that he wanted, losing one position off the start, but Riley Preston and Kobe Jones are starting to break away.
Let you take a breath after that one, Reese. I did say Tamburello would be a bit spicy, but we didn't even get to Tamburello when the spice came. Very, very full-on start there. Unfortunate between Simon Mizono and Luke Swan, but they seem to be chatting on voice chat. I don't think there's any hard feelings, but the racing at the front is unrelenting. Yeaman all over the back of Danson at the moment, into Variante Alta over the chicanes. Thomas Hinds down one spot behind Yeaman. I don't think he'll want to be there for too long though. He's very, very close as we head down towards Ravazza for the end of lap 1.
Luke Swan and Adam Moore went off the track at Acqua Minerale. They were not involved with each other. They just both made mistakes and went off, so they've been compromised slightly as lap 1 is complete. Anthony Green, meanwhile, is stuck in the gravel trap. And what corner is that at? That's at the Villeneuve chicane, and he's managed to get himself free now, so we avoid a safety car for the time being. But Anthony was stuck in there for quite some time as we check back in the battle with the lead. We are going to have a replay very shortly involving Benjamin Faulkner, and on board with Benjamin off the start here, and you see that he bogged quite a bit off the start. Scott Stevens just making his way past him there. But then the incident between Mizomo and Swan happens up ahead. They all check up, and right into the back of Scott Stevens goes Benjamin Faulkner. So I think Scotty's going to be unhappy with that. That, of course, is where the engine is located in a Porsche 911, and you can't afford too much damage, especially in a short race like this.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And these cars don't have that much aero on them. They do have to have pretty big rear wing, but that's kind of it. And any little bit of crumpled bodywork, especially at the back where the engine is going to severely affect the handling of the car because the balance is so fine. But it's still pointing the same positions. Those two drivers did swap spots. We have Reese Harnell in the pits,
and he is crabbing massively, so there's been a big incident out there on track for him. I'll go back and check to see if it had anything to do with the dramas that we were having a little earlier as Yeaman continuing to chase down Matt Danson here. It's going to be tough to try and make a move through the middle sector of the track. It seems to me that Harnell has been dealing with that crabbing for quite some time, and that actually happened off the start. It was rear-end contact for Reese Harnell. It's we're going to be coming up on the replay now, and just see Reese Harnell get a good whack in the rear from Mark Noble. That's how it went down, and poor Reese Harnell, he got collected again there by that was John Courtney. So a lot of drivers with troubles here in the opening laps at Imola. We're only on lap 3 of 21, and already seeing drivers start to drop down the order. Riley Preston and Kobe Jones at the front of the field. They're staying level. Matt Danson has managed to break away from Daniel Yeaman and Thomas Hinds, and now that he's got into a rhythm, we might see that top 3 battle tighten up slightly. The real battling is further back in the field. Luke Swan and Scott Stevens are currently together coming into Piratella, and Swan and Stevens both carrying a bit of damage here. So let's see what they can do, if they can keep it nice and clean, keep it off those curbs.
It's all about damage control now. Stevens is up 2 spots after that little incident at the start with Simon Mizomo and Luke Swan. But they are still pointing in the right direction. They're having a nice close battle. Well, let's say that. Luke Swan has pulled away a little bit, heading down towards Ravazza. But so far, since the end of lap 1, not a lot of drama has come about. Obviously, Anthony Green, Austin Powers into the exit wall, the break in the wall at the exit of Villeneuve chicane. So he's in the pits along with Reese Harnell, so I think that's race done for both of those. But plenty of laps left. We are just past 1/7 race distance, so long way to go yet, and a lot of moves to be made, I'm sure. Thomas Hinz is probably just biding his time in behind Daniel Yeaman right now. We ride on board with Kobe Jones.
And Jones was faster than Preston on the last lap. So is Matt Danson. And wow, this top three battle I think is going to really start going off soon, because have a look at how much Kobe Jones is pressuring Riley Preston here. Matt Danson sets the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 43.48. By comparison, it's a 43.7 for Kobe Jones and a 43.8 for Preston. So see how that one turns out. This is going to be quite tight as they make their way into Variante Alta once again, and you see how much movement there is in these cars over those huge curbs up at the top of the circuit. Looks like Daniel Yeaman has caught up to the back of Matt Danson here, and he's looking for a move at Ravazza. Let's check them out as Danson goes defensive into Ravazza. He runs a bit wide through the two turns. Yeaman has to stay behind though, and this is where the slipstream is going to come into play for Daniel Yeaman. A very long stretch down here across the start-finish line at Imola. We'll see how far he can draw alongside before they get to Tamburello. Fuel is not going to be a concern in this race, so he doesn't need to fuel save. But Danson goes defensive. Yeaman left a car's width on the outside. They have to stay line astern for the time being, but Yeaman, with a slightly wider turn in into the third apex of Tamburello, might get a good run down this short straight between the chicanes. Doesn't look like he's able to take too much advantage though. That Villeneuve chicane not a passing opportunity, as looks like Kobe Jones has had an issue in front of them going off track at the Villeneuve chicane, and he's actually caught the grass and spun it by himself.
Yeah, we were watching Danson and Yeaman go at it, and I heard the tyre squeal in front. Like, that doesn't sound very good, and clearly not. Kobe Jones just went for a little bit of a pirouette at the exit of the Villeneuve, the entry to the Villeneuve chicane, but no contact thankfully. But it's let Riley Preston break out a massive margin. It's 3 seconds now, which isn't a lot, but as Danson runs very wide. Yeah, replay on screen now, just catches that grass, and thankfully he caught it when he did, because he was heading straight towards the rear fender of Riley Preston, but everyone facing the right direction. And I was worried that Danson got a slowdown on the exit of Aqua Minerale, because he went very wide on the exit of the second right-hander, but clearly just narrow enough to save face, because it was very close, and that's a massive slowdown going up the hill towards Variante Alta.
Yeah, it is, but I would say that in most cars it is possible to clear the slowdown without lifting too much, so maybe Danson did get the slowdown but was just able to clear it before Yeaman was able to get past him. Either way, these three still together, as it seems there's been an issue for Scott Stevens down at the last couple of turns. He's gone for another spin there, and that's a bad spot. Got collected on the racing line there by John Courtney, and Isaac Edwards will make his way past Scotty as well. He's not had a good time tonight, has Scott. Hopefully race 2 is kinder to him. But now Thomas Hinz pressuring the back of Daniel Yeaman and Matt Danson. This was briefly a 4-car fight with Kobe Jones having his incident up ahead, but that slow exit for Danson in the middle sector has brought these guys right back together again, and Yeaman pushing as hard as he possibly can, using all of that green AstroTurf on the exit of the turns, which you can use in many places around this circuit without getting an off-track, but it is very slippery, and these Porsches don't have much grip as it is.
That's exactly right. GT3 car is sketchy enough over that green AstroTurf. You can use all of it, like you said, until you get to that. As soon as you touch that concrete, that's your incident point, that's your off track right there. But these Cup cars with no traction control, a lot less downforce, that AstroTurf is almost like, it's slightly grippier ice. It's not much better, but you can use it, and it is faster, but it's also very hard to get that right. And Yeaman right on the back of Danson again. Hinds is not too far behind. Probably a good position to be heading into Tamburello with two cars as close as they are together in front of him. But I don't think Yeaman's quite close enough for the draft pass this lap by, but still sitting right on the edge of that podium. It's not a bad place to be.
Certainly not. It's a very good position to be in as Danson gets very liberal with his curb usage there. He's going to have to be careful of that if the speed bump doesn't catch the floor of the car and send it up into the air or something like that. Still keeping it nice and consistent through Villeneuve chicane. You see just how much of the runoff these guys end up using past a lot of these curbs. It's something that you see quite a bit at tracks that have been around for as long as this place has. But up to the Piratella complex, this is a great view looking back at Yeaman, because you can see just how much speed they carry through that corner. Piratella probably one of my favourite turns on the circuit, but Minerali certainly puts up a fight for that crown, as looks like a pretty good exit for Matt Danson. Manages to stay just outside that gap that Yeaman needs to make the move, and maybe a little too much curb at Variante Alta there. He's going to have to be careful of the off-track there as well. So Yeaman has lost some time there out of Variante Alta, so I don't think the move is going to happen on this lap.
No, it might be trying to cool the tyres down. He was very aggressive for a couple of laps, so try and get a little bit of a gap, get some fresh air, cool the car down a little bit, attack again. Obviously not Formula One, we don't have batteries to recharge, but we do have tyres to maintain, so the drop off on these cars isn't as severe as, say, a supercar or a NASCAR, but you can feel it towards the end of the race. So maintaining it through this middle stage where you're there or thereabouts is really important for the last 4 or 5 laps when you really go on that final attack. And Danson catching Kobe Jones up front once. He does run wide. I'm sorry, Matt. I'll send him an apology for my commentator's curse later, but he was catching Kobe Jones. I was about to say that'll obviously bring Danson and Yeaman and Hinds into that when they start battling, but a mistake like that will also do it. So quick reset and back we are where we were last lap.
Absolutely. Well, let's see if there's another mistake here from Matt Danson, because yeah, you did mention he was catching Jones, and he was, but maybe he got a little bit overconfident, maybe pushing a little bit too hard. Yeaman, the picture of concentration there as he makes his way up to Variante Alta, and you see just how much wheel work is required through that section of the circuit. Those curbs putting a lot of force through the steering column, and having to balance this Porsche around those corners is a very tall order at the best of times, let alone in a GT3 car. How about in this GT3 Cup machine, which has much lower grip, a bit less power, less aerodynamic performance. It's all about trying to maintain the mechanical grip, and it's all down to driving style in these machines. The catch-up from Daniel Yeaman down the front stretch. There's Jones at the bottom of the screen. Yeaman closes up just a little bit in the braking zone, but it's not going to be enough this time. And Danson keeping it nice and smooth. So it's been a lap now since Danson had that incident. Let's see if it happens again here at the Villeneuve chicane. Over the curbs, nice and smooth. Yeah, he's taking a bit more of a narrower line into the right-hander, whereas Yeaman is sticking tight through the left to open up the right, which is aiding his pace a little bit, but it seems that Danson is just that little bit faster, or even equal with Yeaman where it counts around here, particularly in this middle sector.
Yeah, it's very fine margins. They don't have much between them at all. It's another battle further back between Simon Mizomo and Jaden Mollenhauer. Simon Mizomo obviously trying to recover after that lap 1 incident. To go VRS replay now. And
our director Jay Kennedy says it's a nice old overtake. is what's happened here. So through Villeneuve, Mollenhauer goes a little bit narrow on exit, and Mazomo sees the opportunity, fires it up the inside at Tosa, and he is through. Fantastic move there, and certainly one that can be done due to the nature of Tosa. It sort of tightens up as you get to the second phase of the corner, just past the apex. So if you can go in there a little bit harder, you will be able to get past your rival. Yeaman and Hinz. Looks like Danson has scampered away once again, and Yeaman obviously falling off the wagon slightly, which means Thomas Hinz is putting him under big pressure. Hinzy is the championship leader, remember, so he'll want to get any points he possibly can, especially with Riley Preston so far out in front and Hinzy just rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, Hinzy will definitely be wanting to get past as soon as he can to try and catch onto, well, the podium positions, but at the same time, he's not going to try and go for a stupid move into, say, Piratella or Aqua Minerali that's going to send him the other way down the order either. So Thomas Hinz is a very, very seasoned racer in, well, I was going to say in the AusNZ community, but pretty much anywhere that he races. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a very experienced driver, so he won't do anything stupid. He'll want to get past, but I don't think he'll be in too much of a rush to get it. We're almost halfway through the race, so he's still got plenty of running left, but it is very easy, well, very easy. It's a lot easier to pass into the first couple of corners here than at a lot of other tracks that we've been to this season, so he'll have that in the forefront of his mind as well.
You see how aggressive Thomas Hinz was on the brakes into Variante Alta, and he's aggressive on the brakes into Ravazza as well. He's through on Daniel Yeaman and up into 4th place. He was sizing that move up for about half a lap, I reckon. Hinzy pushing so hard into every corner. He's got a lot of faith in those front tyres.
Yeah, that was an excellent move down the hill. The car goes through such a variety of loads and changes through that corner. Getting a past on there is, it looks easy enough. It's up there as we go side by side around the outside of Tamburello. Comes the inside, 2x2, has to yield in the end of this game. But that was a very good attempt, very good driving by both of those guys. It is doable around the outside at the first part of Tamburello, but not very often, but very well driven by both drivers. I'm sure Daniel won't give this position up too easy, but Hinzy does seem to have the pace advantage. So,
Tomo. There's been an issue there for Simon, who's been steadily trying to recover. Was this an incident with Mollenhauer, I wonder, but we'll have to wait and see for that, as Yeaman continuing to hound the back of Thomas Hinz here through Piratella down to Aqua Minerali. And when we get this lap time down, we'll be able to get a better picture of what the battles look like here in the top 5. Because if Hinzy is slowing up Daniel Yeaman, it's going to allow Kobe Jones and Matt Danson to get away. And a couple of times they've shown up as being within a second of each other on my timing, but it seems they've calmed down for now. What hasn't calmed down is this attempt here by Yeaman to get 4th place back. Hinzy he's not going to go defensive. Yeaman's going to try the same thing that Hinzy tried on him last lap. A little unsettled coming up to the apex for Yeaman, but he gets the move done.
that was very clever by Damon. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he seemed to half park it on the apex. It slowed Hinzy up just enough. He couldn't get the run down the straight, caused a big enough gap because Hinzy had to check up mid-corner. And if you do go side by side, like you said, the second part of Ravazza is faster than the first part. So going for a move at the first Ravazza can compromise your run all the way down to Tamburello. So again, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Daniel just slowing down that little bit more on that apex caused Hinzy to check up and kind of secured the move for him. I do know what happened to... Oh yes, cool, we are getting a replay of that incident with Mizomo. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, Reese, but I have, and it was very unfortunate.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see it then here in the top left, and it's a slow-mo, so we know how this is probably going to go down. I was warning, I was talking about these speed bumps and how incredibly difficult it is to get them right. See that compression for Mizomo, it just unsettles the car. lets it go loose and then goes over another speed bump, which just exacerbates it, and another here at Tamburello. And at that point, Mizomo is just a passenger. There's nothing he can do to save that.
Yeah, so they're not massive curbs, but they have such an influence on the behavior of the car, and even someone as experienced as Simon is, it's so easy to lose that. As see Isaac Edwards, who had a pretty good run at Alton Park last time we were out, or the time before that.
Last time.
It was last time. Thank you.
Yeah. Because it was the V8's supports at Belle Isle.
Of course, it was. Yes, it was. He had a very good run at Alton Park. He started the second race from second position and got an absolutely blistering start. And he's in the top 10 now. So he's up 4 spots, which I'm sure, no doubt, he will be absolutely stoked with. He's looking for that 9th position of... No, he's just been overtaken by Mark Nova. My apologies. But still in the top 10. So he's got a 2-second gap back to Adam Moore behind him. So still a bit of breathing room, but a very good run from Isaac so far.
Indeed, both he and Noble are up 3 positions, and there is Isaac with a little bit of laundry showcased there behind his sim rig. Yeah, it's been a pretty good, clean-ish run for Isaac and for Mark as well. There are a couple of dings on the cars from incidents in the opening laps, but since that start line incident, it seems that this race has been nice and calm. We haven't seen too many huge incidents out there, just drivers spinning and collecting others. But Jones and Danson. Matt is really starting to push here on Kobe. It seems that he was half a second faster than Kobe Jones on the last lap, and the gap is half a second between them. As just noticed, Mark Noble and Isaac Edwards went side by side again in Tosa, but they've sorted themselves out and they're continuing to run as they are. With Danson now in the slipstream properly of Kobe Jones here, going to have 8 laps to try and execute this move.
8 laps doesn't seem like too much. Oh, another mistake from Kobe Jones. It's a lot easier than I'm sure.
Corners.
I was going to say that's a lot easier than I can imagine Matt Danson thought that would be, but another mistake at the chicanes. Different chicane, but chicanes nonetheless. And the mistake from Danson as well. He's like, no, I don't want it that easy. You go back through. I want to try this the hard way.
Oh my goodness. So both second and third places making mistakes over the curbs in quick succession there. And all this is doing really is helping Preston stretch that gap out further. It's now 6.4 seconds, that gap out in the lead, but only 0.6 between Jones and Danson here. And they'll both want to minimise those mistakes. They both stay well wide of the speed bumps at Minerali. But yeah, it's all about those turns in the opening part of the lap. You don't really get much in the way of speed bumps in other places around the circuit, so they can afford to push a little harder through corners like this. But man, really, you make a slight mistake in Tamburello or Villeneuve, and as you can see, if it weren't for the other guy making the mistake, then one of them would have benefited massively from that.
Yeah, it's also helping Daniel Yeaman behind. He's caught up as well. But it was good to hear both of the guys getting on the radio and having a little bit of banter between the two of them. So I'm sure they're secretly quite angry at themselves for each of their mistakes, but they're taking it well, and it's what we love to see as this battle continues. It's only 0.6 of a second, 2 seconds split up to Daniel. A lot of curb by Danson again. He is new, well, he's not new, but he's relatively new to more competitive road racing, and I think he's taking a bit too much inspiration from James Scott, his supercars teammate at Altus Esports, and absolutely crunching those curves in the Porsche Cup. But it looks cool, but it's not necessarily the safest way to do it.
Yeah, of course. He's lost a bit of time to Jones there and is now under pressure from Daniel Yeaman in the Drop Bear red machine. So away they go again through Piratella, as I've noticed a spin for Adam Moore down at the Ravazza turns, and looks to me like that was something that he did by himself. Meanwhile, Isaac Edwards and Mark Noble, they're not able to leave each other alone here. Edwards is back ahead of Noble, and he's pushed a bit too hard into Tamburello. Noble's going to make that position up quite easily. So, yeah, just pushing a little bit too hard into the first part of Tamburello. The fronts just don't grip up, and you have no choice but to sail across the gravel trap.
Well, I mean, thankfully it's a big gravel trap there as well. You do get a slowdown from it, but by the time you get back onto the circuit, you've pretty much served the slowdown anyway. But lots of runoff there, thankfully, because this is, I think it was 1.6k, this main straight, so it's a hefty straight. And yeah, a lot of drivers making those mistakes. I don't know if it's a bit of fatigue because they've been, battling for half an hour in some pretty intense battles, or the tyres are starting to give way. The car's obviously getting light as well as the fuel burns away. But another big jump by Matt through the second part of the Tamburello chicane, but a little bit less extravagant on the landing, which is good. But Yeaman is only 6 tenths away from him, so this could be a very, very interesting 6 laps to conclude this one.
It certainly could. Oh, it seems that Isaac Edwards has spun around on the exit of Variante Alta. He just took a bit too much curb and the rear end broke free. There wasn't much he could do to recover that. Meanwhile, Luke Swan and Jaden Mullenhour we just saw battling their way around. There's a bit of ebb and flow to this race so far. We've seen battles commence, battles just fizzle out and then come back again. It's what we like to see in a race like this. Just, that general flow to everything happening out there. Meanwhile, on board with the number 11, Luke Swan, he has got Jaden Mullenhour right with him there. And through, coming into Tamburello. Shows you just how much of an advantage the slipstream can be if you really commit to it and you're close enough to the car up ahead. I don't think the same is going to be true for Daniel Yeaman though, because he's a little bit too far behind Matt Danson to really take any advantage for now, but he's still going to be getting a whisper of a draft, which is the main thing. Riley Preston, meanwhile, out in the lead by 6.1. Looks like he has lost a tiny bit of time to Kobe Jones, but we do know that Jones has made a few mistakes already in this race, so I get the feeling that Riley Preston isn't too worried at the moment.
Nah, boring race is usually a pretty good race if you're out in front. The less eventful, the better, because, he had a little bit of company at the start of the race, but obviously Kobe Jones with a couple of mistakes, Matt Danson with a couple of mistakes. Dan Yeaman's been there or thereabouts. He has dropped Thomas Hines by 5 seconds since their little battle a couple of laps ago. So nice boring race out front for Riley Preston. Definitely helping his championship, but I don't know if I'd rather be him or Yeaman at the moment, because it'd be boring out in front, but it'd also be in front, not sweating behind an Altus Esports driver trying to fight for the last of the podium positions.
Absolutely, and again you see that aggressive exit from the Acca Minerale complex, and Danson maybe taking a little bit of a wider line out, Yeaman a bit straighter, using a few meters less distance to make his way out of the corner. That's what he's hoping will give him the advantage in this podium battle. With 5 to go now for our leader. Should be coming up on 4 to go very, very shortly. And Riley Preston does begin lap 18. We do have a replay coming up of Jaden Mollenhauer. Looks like he and Simon Mazzomo trading positions again. What happened to Mollenhauer here? Just a bit too much of the speed bump on the inside of Villeneuve, and through goes Simon Mazzomo there. And well, Mollenhauer, another victim of the speed bumps here at Imola. It seems that pretty much every driver has had an appointment with them today.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Formula One needs to bring these curves back. It'll stop all the off tracks that we had at the Grand Prix at the start of the year, because everyone will just keep spinning when they hit them. But unfortunately, it is the reality of this track. I think it's a good thing. There is that margin for error, so it entices you, but it also does really bite you if you get it wrong. But these guys out front, for the most part, have been walking that thread well. There've been a couple of mistakes, but they are human. Like, that's what we expect. But yeah, they're avoiding that inside curb at Aquamilarale like the plague. I mean, Yaman is the closest he's been to Matt for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 laps.
Oh, Thomas Hinz has spun, we've just heard. So something's gone very wrong there for Hinsey in 5th. He has managed to get back going. It looks like this was a mistake at Aquaminerale, and this is something that we saw happen on the opening lap from a couple of drivers. You run into that grass on driver's left, and there we go. Rear end brakes free. Nothing Hinsey could do about that. Just a little bit too hard into the first part of the corner. And you need to be careful to not go too far to the left on your approach, because that's what happens. Meanwhile, Yaman right on the back of Danson now, coming into Tamburello. Does Danson clip the curb? He does, but he keeps it nice and stable. On board with Yaman, you see the wheel work that's being put through the Drop Bear Motorsport Porsche. Now let's compare the lines here. Danson, oh, he's taken a bit too much curb, and there goes Yaman right on by. Danson actually going for a spin. He's lost a ton of time there.
Yeah, there was a interesting line. It's not the one I would probably take, but he did clip the wall a little bit, but he wasn't going too fast, so I don't think he'll have too much damage, if any, from that. It was just on the, where was it? Oh, just right on the left door. So the car looks fine though, which is good. But yeah, definitely not what he was planning to do. He's now down 2 spots from the start after that incident.
Replay up, and that's what happened to Danson there. He didn't quite go for a spin, but he was chucked the other way by clipping the wall there. So, like you said, Brad, probably not a huge amount of damage, but it's damage he could certainly live without. Riley Preston, meanwhile, coming round to start the penultimate lap of this first race, and it's been basically trouble-free for him since the start. Yes, he didn't quite get the best run off the line, but ever since that point, he's been able to keep everyone behind him, extend that gap, let them fight amongst themselves, make their own mistakes, and that's what wins you championships.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't think he's put a foot wrong all race. It was a bit spicy at the start. He had to fend the other guys off, but as soon as he got in front, he checked out. He was done. No one can. Well, I mean, he's still got the most part of 2 laps to go, so I won't say too much. But he's driven well so far. Is what I'm going to leave it there before I say something stupid.
Yeah, let's not say too much at this stage. Well, very smooth lines around this track for Riley Preston. You can see that he's just pushing hard enough to keep it moving forward at a reasonable pace, keep that gap around 5 or 6 seconds to Kobe Jones. Don't take too much curb here, just ease back on the throttle there. Don't brake too hard in this area, etc., etc. It's a lovely consistent run here from Riley Preston. He no longer has the fastest lap of the race. It's still Matt Danson with that 1:43.48. But of course, Danson falling out of contention for the podium with that incident we saw a lap or 2 ago. Preston has kept up the times very consistently here, and continuing to set those 1:43 lap times. Actually in the low 44s for the most part, but he's kept it, 1:44.3, 1:44.3, 1:44.3, 1:44.1 as he starts the final lap. And I gotta say, Brad, at this stage, with Thomas Hinz going for his little loop-de-loop and the other drivers making their own mistakes, this is the stage of the season where Riley Preston will really have to make his mark on this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to have a good race and result for yourself, but it's another thing to capitalize on other people's mistakes. And when they both come together, it's a dream come true. And it's moments like this that will turn that championship around, because people talk about whether momentum is a thing or not, but it absolutely is. It only takes one corner and it can change your entire season. And Kinsey having by his standards less than optimal start and then that spin late in the race, it can get in your head. And for Riley to get a good result in this, it'd be like, okay, I've just caught up a bunch more points, let's go for some more, and that's when you start leading the championship and then continue to lead the championship. And he's got 3 corners to go. Touching wood, he'll come home with a nice comfortable margin over Kobe Jones, who thankfully recovered his result after a couple of incidents mid-race. But yeah, it's races like this that win you the championship, and they're the most boring race to race, but it gets the job done.
Getting the job done is exactly what Riley Preston has done here today. It's victory for the Evolution Racing Team driver in race 1 of the Flat Sixes here at Imola tonight. A brilliant drive from Riley. Kobe Jones comes across the line in 2nd place. He could have pressured Preston there. So could Daniel Yeaman, but they were all caught up in their own fights and foibles, as was Matt Danson there, finishing 4th in the end. Thomas Hinds is going to come home here at a very distant 5th place. And out of the final corner he comes. And would have been hoping for a little bit more there. Barney's shoulder is probably going to be very sore here as Benjamin Faulkner comes across the line to finish 6th, exactly where he started. We've still got plenty of drivers making their way around the lap here, but it looks like all the battles are essentially over, so this is how they are going to stack up.
Simon Azomo, thankfully for his sake, recovers to where he started. It should have been higher. I reckon he's probably not happy with that. Same with Jaden Mollenhauer. He finishes where he started. Good recovery by him. Mark Noble coming around. Ravazza 2, turning 18 for the final time. Up 3 positions, so that's a good result. Had a couple of incidents. I don't know. It was a good run. I mean, he gained 3 spots, so I'm sure he probably would have wanted more, but he recovered well.
He did indeed, and across the line for him, last driver across the line is going to be Isaac Edwards, and he is had an unfortunate spin on the final lap there, but he does end up coming across the line, and that is going to be the race result, because it's actually an interesting stat that I've just been sent. It's the first race all season that Thomas Hinds is not on the podium. So, I mean, that tells you something about how this night has gone for Hindsy so far. Hopefully race 2 can be a bit better, Brad.
Yeah, I've still got another race later tonight after our next race, so yeah, plenty of fighting back. It is a reverse grid race as well, so that's going to be very, very interesting.
Absolutely is. It's Preston, Jones, Yeaman, Danson and Hinds, your top 5, with Faulkner, Swan, Mazomo, Mollenhauer and Noble rounding out the top 10. Adam Moore and Isaac Edwards finish 11th and 12th, and they are going to be on the front row for race 2, being the last cars finishing on the lead lap. John Courtney couldn't get home 2 laps from the end. Stevens, Harnell and Green all retiring from this race. We're going to step aside briefly here on SimSpeed TV, continuing with the V8SCOPS supports presented by racingsims.co.nz. We got the Trucking Legends up next, and then race 2 of the Porsches. Stay with us.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, you know, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, you know, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, you know, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a, you know, direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, you know, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, you know, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. You know, a lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. You know, this thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you know, you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You know, you can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but you know, the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but you know, the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. You know, it feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. You know, a real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Trying here. iRacing, Climb to the Clouds, Mount Washington Hill Climb available now. Check it out.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got really outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
And welcome back to SimSpeed TV. And no, I am not Reese Gardner. I'm jumping in. Jay Kennedy and Brad Wingard's still here. Reese has jumped out of the commentary box, quickly rushed off to get himself set up, and is out there on track, about to start qualifying for the Trucking Legends component of tonight's events here in the racingsims.co.nz V8SCOPS support series at Brad, yours and my favourite track on iRacing. We call this the GOAT of iRacing tracks. You call it the GOAT of tracks full stop. Imola. It's an amazing circuit and it always provides great racing. Doesn't matter whether you're putting a V8, a Legend, a truck, a Porsche, an F1 car, or an MX-5. Every single combination of car, it provides a fantastic race.
Yeah, it absolutely does. The Porsche race we just watched was an absolute banger. There was action left, right, and centre. And We have a slightly smaller grid for the Legends today, but I'm sure given their petite size is what I'm going to use, the racing's going to be even better because the track essentially becomes twice as wide, so it's going to be very, very exciting to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a track that the cars already would find themselves in a very, very tight battle. They're the type of cars that provide tight, close racing as it is. So having them out there around this amazing Imola circuit is going to be a load of fun. As you can see on screen, the circuit, 19 turns, and I forget the distance off the top of my head. It's a 5 and a bit Ks, I believe, from memory. I mean, I did type this up. So, there you go, close enough. I did type this up, so I should remember. But one thing that the track map doesn't show is the width of some of the sections on track, and we saw in that race there, the width of the track does help promote great racing. It promotes overtaking, it promotes passing opportunities, and it just gives enough incentive for drivers to make a bold move every now and again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That massive 1.6 kilometer, not quite straightaway that leads into the Tamburello chicane is also, it also helps that I'm not going to promote it, but it is very bump draftable in the right cars. Builds a massive slipstream because these cars are so small and the track is as wide as it is. Moves into Tamburello are probably going to be a lot more feasible in these cars than anything else on our schedule, like on our roster and our schedule. So it's going to be very interesting as we're 3 minutes into qualifying at the moment. So drivers are starting their laps now, and I'm not quite sure what the spread is going to be, but I don't think that's really going to matter once that green flag drops and we get that draft race underway.
100% agree. It's not going to really matter where you qualify in this track. Out of all of the tracks on the schedule, this one and Bathurst are probably the two tracks, and Phillip Island as well, to some extent, probably the tracks. It doesn't really matter where you qualify as much. Of course, when we get to Bathurst in 5 weeks' time, 3 more rounds, or 2.5 rounds till we get there, that will be the longer race for these guys. They'll do a 20-minute race instead of the standard 10-minute race. So it will be a little bit of a different format for those guys to mix things up a tiny little bit. This is the championship as it stands now after 9 rounds, 9 races. Daniel Stevens leads the way over Nick Scrave, Brett Loxton, Reese Harnell and Reese Gardner, but Daniel Stevens does have a lock on this at the moment. As I said though, they've only got 3 rounds left in this season, because once we get to Bathurst, that is the end of the championship for the Trucking Legends. After that, Trucking Legends is done. V8s and Porsches in the support series, they start doing a lot longer races and different formats. So we see pit stops come in for those guys at that point. That means that these next 3 races, the 3 endurance rounds of V8SCOPS, critical for these guys to get big points. Smaller fields though do play into Daniel Stevens' favour, because if he still turns up, finishes 75% of the race, even if he has a bad one, still gets big chunks of points.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's not like we have, the 16, 17, 18 of the Porsches or the 45 that we'll have at the 500 on Sunday afternoon for V8SCOPS. So having a bad result is still a top 10 result. So it's a lot of incentive just to show up and get to that 75% mark, because you'll still get a fair chunk of points. And like we were talking about during the break, this series is criminally underrated because these cars they're very different, but they are a lot of fun to drive. Obviously they're very similar to our mini race cars that we have here, but yeah, the racing that they produce is just fantastic, and they're a handful, but they are a lot of fun.
They are a handful, but they're manageable in the way that they drive as well. So if you can drive it well and push it to a limit and keep it under control, you're going to find yourself being able to get bulk chunks of time and be able to do things that, will amplify you in regards to positions and things like that. So, risk versus reward, none more prevalent than in this car right here. So we jump over the shoulder of Dan Stevens. I must say, big thank you to Daniel Stevens for letting us into his office each and every round of both V8SCOPS and the major series. He's always the first to message, what's the Zoom link to get in? So a big thank you to Daniel for always offering to show us over his shoulder. And I must say the view he gives us is always fun as well. But one thing I'm impressed with, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but Dan Stevens must be one fit man because he runs his force feedback as high as I've seen almost anyone in Australia and New Zealand sim racing.
Yeah, I'd love to know what he does for work, because his forearm strength and his wrist strength must be through the roof. Like,
There he is, he can hear us.
Yeah. Good job. It's not even just he's got his force feedback through the roof, it's probably giving iRacing a bad time. He's also using a stick shifter, so the fact that he's coming through like Tamburello and Villeneuve and over Variante Alta while shifting through the gears with one hand is just his upper body. He must be like a mini version of the Hulk at this point, because that's not easy to do.
You can tell that he's just heard us talking about his arm strength, because I know you can probably see him on Zoom as I can. He's got a big smirk on his face right at that moment too, so he obviously heard us talking him up and his arm strength up, so he was loving that. As we go, he's having a look at Nick Scrave, who is in the SimSpeed car. You can tell Nick each and every week because he's in the brightest yellow machine you will see. You did notice that car in the background there reversing and straightening up. That was Reese Harnell. The reason he was doing that, as per every single V8SCOPS race, whether it's the support series in Porsche's V8's Trucking Legends or in V8SCOPS proper, no escape rule in effect for all qualifying and race sessions. Means if you have a spin, you can't press that magic button and go back to the pits and start again. You have to drive it from where you are.
That might seem like a nitty-gritty rule of, oh, you know, it looks better for the broadcast and all that sort of stuff, which obviously it does, but these guys are, especially at SCOPS, they're the best of the best in Australia, and it means that laps in qualifying means so much more, because if you have an incident, you do have to drive all the way back to the pits, and that could mean starting, you know, 19th compared to 8th because you've missed out on your final run in qualifying. So it's not as simple as, you know, oh yeah, you have to do the full lap for the sake of the broadcast. It adds so much more to the qualifying sessions. It makes them that much more important than just, oh, I've had a spin at Tamburello, that's fine, I'll take a minute out of my lap time by escaping. It's no, you have to drive that entire minute and a half to get back to the pits.
And on top of that, if you've actually damaged the car and it's crabbing and things like that, that may be your qualifying done, because you won't get back to the pits in time to get your car fixed and get back out there. So it is a very, very crucial rule. As we did see Reese Gardner jump to P1, but pretty much straight away from then, Brett Loxton has gone and just picked him. As you just see there, John Courtney jumping into the timing sheets, as does Nick Scrave, who jumps into 6th position. We've got 35 seconds left on the clock. We'll see who is going to complete yet another lap. Brett Loxton has had an okay start to his next lap. Aaron Gilbert and Hayden Veld for Henry Jones Racing, the 03 and the 53. They will run out there and be not too far off completing their out laps, but they are not going to get a flyer in, as will Simon Mazzoma. Oh no, Simon Mazzoma will get a flyer in. Reese Gardner is coming up to complete his next flying lap, and this one looks pretty good. But Brett Loxton also, his lap looks very, very good as the checkered flag flies. No time to start another lap. Gilbert and Veld are going to be done. Gardner has to push right now, and I think he's given up that lap, so he is done. Reese Gardner will not pip pole position, take it away from Brett Loxton. We'll see what Loxton can do though, because he is on that lap now.
Reese got a bit too much of the inside curb at like the left-hander of Variante Alta, so I don't know if that was a slowdown or an off-track, but definitely ruined his run. So Loxton at the moment, Daniel Stevens, I believe, is on a lap.
Yep.
So he might be able to pip him, but Brett Loxton at the moment is secure from, he'll be starting probably second at the last, unless Ben Christensen can pull out a ripper time as well. But so far it's Brett Loxton on the top. He comes... Where is he? Oh, sorry, I'm on replay. He comes up to the line to finish his lap, which will obviously be his last lap, and it looks pretty good.
Yep. Not enough though.
Not quite enough.
What about Dan Stevens? No, he won't be improved. And Ben Christensen definitely won't improve because he's out there building sandcastles. Simon Mazzomo will be the only driver that can potentially change anything in regards to the qualifying order. He will want to get some sort of lap in to potentially put himself up into that top 10. John Courtney beats Hayden Veld. Veld 15 seconds off the pace. Mazzomo will find himself 4 seconds off the pace, but that is enough to put him into position number 7. That is qualifying done here for the Trucking Legends in V8SCOPS Support Series, and the starting grid will be as follows, with Loxton and Gardner on the front row, Stevens and Christensen on row number 2, Harnell and Skraev on the 3rd row. 4th row will be Mazzomo and Courtney, with Hayden Veld, Aaron Gilbert and Anthony Green will also take to the start. They did not post times in qualifying, which is why their names aren't showing on the grid at this stage. We get ready to get underway. 10-minute race as per normal in this series. 10 minutes flies by, and judging by the lap pace of these guys, that's only 5 laps. Not a huge amount of opportunities for guys to make moves. What that also means, not many laps for you to try and hold on. So you might be a little bit more aggressive in your defensive moves, knowing that there's only 5 laps.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And like we said during qualifying, the size of this track in proportion, sorry, not scale, in proportion to the size of the cars is massive. So defending is going to be a lot harder in these cars for that 10 minutes than it would have been in the Porsches for the just over 40 minutes before. So it's going to be very interesting. It's the run into Tamburello. Hopefully we'll make it through this time with, you know, half the cars that we had last race. But I said we'd make it to Tamburello in the Porsches, and we didn't quite get there before the first incident. So we will see, but launch is going to be very, very vital in these cars because it's not a massive run to turn 1 from the start line, but it's long enough for the draft to start kicking in towards the end. So someone might be brave and send it, but I guess we'll find out in the next 60 seconds or so.
So, received a message from Ben Christensen. He was on for a very, very good lap until he messed up that final corner. He was looking at an 8.0, which would have put him pretty much identical pace or time as Brett Loxton. So he may have had enough in the tank to steal P1 away, but threw it away in the last corner. So that would have been interesting to see if he did complete the lap. We've got 25 seconds for the drivers to finish gridding up before we get into this race proper here on SimSpeed TV. If you are new to the channel, big thank you and hello for joining us, and make sure you do subscribe. It's a huge weekend of racing here on SimSpeed TV. If you are looking for some racing in the lunch time hours tomorrow, we'll be back again 12:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time for V8 Americas. Heaps more racing. We'll talk about what's coming up this weekend throughout this race as we get ready to go. And green flag flies. Very, very good launch from all of them. Nick Skraev had a great launch at the back, and not a great launch, though, for Daniel Stevens, because Reece Gardner... Sorry, not a great launch for Reece Gardner, because Dan Stevens has already gone through.
Yeah, it was very close, but yeah, Stevens just had that edge, and unfortunately for Reece, who will be back for... Oh, he's had a little bit of a spin. He's gone from not great to worse, and losing a bit of time. Not a... Well, I mean, it is quite a bit of time, but he only had to wait for 7 cars to get past him rather than 15, but less than ideal. Not much racing to catch up either, so he was a few seconds faster than the back and mid pack, so he might be able to catch up towards the end of the race, but he is 4 seconds behind John Courtney in 9th place, so that is still a big uphill battle for him to overcome for a good result.
Definitely is. It's going to be tough for him to close that up, but he'll be looking to gain any spots he can to try and close up some championship positions. He's a little wide there, went Brett Loxton. Dan Stevens, the championship leader, will be looking to try and get this move done. They've pulled a fairly hefty margin already over Ben Christensen, Nick Skraev and Hayden Veld behind. Veld also looking like he's trying to get some moves done too. He's already up a couple of spots into P5 already. The Hayden Veld in the 53 is making some good forward progression.
Yeah, it's very big jump already for Mr. Hayden Veld. He is in 4th place after starting 9th, so not a bad opening that. I don't think there was any contact, it was just that spin from Reese Gardner through the Villeneuve chicane, but now we get ready for this big long straight as Brett Loxton actually runs wide of the exit of Ravazza, which is going to help Daniel Stevens even more than it already would with that massive draft. And getting up to 170 k's an hour now, these aren't quite as fast as the Cup cars by a margin, but they're no slouches as they head under the entry for the second time. First flying time into Tamburello. Not quite close enough for the move at this time by, but still sitting pretty and just has to wait for Loxton to make an error.
And the positive in regards to trying to get your opponent to make an error is that you don't see drivers race these cars a huge amount. There's been attempts to make series of these cars within the AusNZ community, but rarely they take too much traction past a couple of weeks. This has been a full-length season of both this and, of course, the Pro 2 trucks combined in one championship. And it means that, you know, we've seen, this is a 4th race, I think, in these. It does take a little bit of getting used to. I mean, as we said before, they're not the hardest cars to drive, as Mizoma's had an issue at the back of the field. They're not the hardest cars to drive, but they can trick you into going above the limit. You get your confidence up quite early in these, and they almost force you into an unforced error.
And that's exactly what happened to Simon Mizoma. He hit the inside curb at Tosa, and it just unsettled the car, and round it went, and he is now 6 seconds behind John Courtney, who has been passed by Reese Gardner. So he's slowly making his way back through the field as he heads up towards and through Variante Outer for the second time. So he is catching up. It's 1.5 seconds behind Nicholas Garachu. I butchered that, I apologize.
You did.
I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nicholas. I'll get it right next time. But his pace is good, so he might still be able to get a decent result out of this in the end yet.
Nick has had his second slowdown through Variante Alta as well, so it's 2 from 2 for him in regards to the slowdowns. As we hit 2 laps down, we've got 3 laps to go. We know that there's going to be 5 laps in this race. It's almost impossible for it to be any different. Stevens versus Loxton continues on. That lap by Loxton did do the fastest lap of the race, as Mizoma's had to come into the pit, so he's probably got some damage from that incident that he had before. He's just coming in to make sure the car's okay, try and complete as many laps as he can, because remember, you have to complete 75% race distance to get points. That means you have to finish 4 of the 5 laps.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but as he's... Oh, I think he might... Yeah, he does look quite damaged. Yeah, 4 out of 5 laps doesn't sound that bad, but it does... I mean, that is a fair percent. It's not, 75 of 100 laps, which, okay, yeah, is basically the same amount, but because the race is so short here, hitting that 75% mark is harder. Even though it is such a short race, it makes up... I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I mean, right?
I know what you're trying to say. So, because you've got such a short race in regards to lap numbers, if you have an error, you don't have much time for it to balance itself out. So if you have an incident, causes, say, 1.5 minutes of damage, by the time you limp it back to the pits, you may not actually get those 4 laps complete. You might end up 2 laps down. So losing that ground over such a short amount of time, a short amount of laps, really does hurt you. As Spray is still having trouble through Variante Alta. Good news for him is he didn't get a slowdown that time, but Gardner got a great run, and there's going to be a potential move here between the SimSpeed commentators.
Yes, side by side into Ravazza, we love to see it. Reese holding the outside.
Oh, nice.
Very nicely done there. Very nice and clean. Lots of room was given. Thankfully, run wide on exit though, so might be in a bit of trouble here. Still very close. 0.2 of a second between them. This might come back to bite. Reese coming into Tamborelli, but I think the gap is just big enough coming down the straightaway. Yeah, he's going defensive. Sorry.
I was just going to say, they're also catching Aaron Gilbert just ahead as well while they're battling away. And DNF now as well for John Courtney's Grave. Tell you what, that was a bit loosey-goosey from him. So as Gardner gets through, Gilbert now the next target. And John Courtney has also decided that his car is too damaged from earlier on, so he's decided to park that one. The front of the field, Loxton has now started to pull a bit of a gap. It's out to just on a second. This is the closest battle on track here. Reese Gardner in his recovery, trying to get himself past Aaron Gilbert to get himself into the top 6. And then try and hunt down Reese Harnell based on the pace. He'd be right on the tail of Harnell with about 4 or 5 corners to go.
If only we had a not AWS graphic of striking distance and how many laps, but I guess we can do that mathematically based on lap times. Yeah, last lap might be a bit spicy for that 5th place between Harnell and Gardner, but Gardner obviously has to get past Gilbert first, and
there's his chance.
Gilbert, yeah, and a lot easier than he probably would have expected. Very, very hot through that second part of Aqua Mineralia is very easy to do, and that might have been a slowdown on exit anyway, because Gilbert was right up on that exit curve, but also let Nicholas through as well. So Reese now up into 6th place, and he has a 3-second gap to close in just a lap, so that's going to be a monumental task for Reese here.
Saying that, based on his qualifying pace in comparison to what Harnell has done the last couple of laps, it is doable, as I said, probably with half a lap to go. They will receive the white flag this time by, I believe. Barney, are you waving the flag? Let's see if we can pick it up. That he is. And confirm it's the last lap of the race, so we will get the checkered flag next time by. We're talking before about heaps of racing this weekend here on SimSpeed. Of course, we said we've got V8SCOPS support now. We've got V8 Americas tomorrow here at Imola, which is the iRacing official series. So if you race your weekly race on iRacing, they do an American night, which is Friday night in American time, which is 10:15 Friday night New York time, which is a time where all the drivers that want to race the iRacing V8 from America have all decided to jump in and race at the same time to give themselves the best opportunity of having a competitive race. We organised that going on 10 years ago here in Australia, which was still going now. Of course, we did broadcast that here on SimSpeed once upon a time. From that, we've also got V8SCOPS on Sunday. Not Sunday night, so if you would be looking to jump on at 6 o'clock Eastern time and try and find the race, you're probably not going to find it at that time, because we are on in the afternoon for Enduros, as is tradition here on SimSpeed, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for pre-race full 45 car shootout and then 500 kilometre race. It's going to be a very, very fun day. Very, very fun commentary team as well we'll have for the day. We won't give too much away, but expect to see some famous faces in the commentary box and out on the track as well. It's going to be a very, very fun race day. Brett Loxton comes around the final corner, and trucking legend, race win once again for Brett Loxton here. Dan Stevens, though, he's got one hand on that championship with 2 rounds to go. He's got a big, big lead now. Loxton picks up a very, very comfortable win, lights to flag. Stevens in second. Ben Christensen gets the third in the end. Haydenveld holds on for fourth. Reese Gardner couldn't quite close into Reese Harnell at the end. They finish 5th and 6th. Grayev and Gilbert will be the last couple of drivers. So there you can see Loxton, Stevens, Christensen, Veld, Harnell, Gardner, Grayev, Gilbert. Then we had Courtney and Mazomo who DNF'd. Time for me to jump back out of the comms box. Reese will jump back in very, very soon. Thanks for having me along once again, Brad. That was a very, very entertaining race. I do love these cars.
Yeah, they're a good bit of fun and good bit of commentary. So nice short races, gives us plenty of action, and now we get to go watch another thrilling Porsche race once Reese gets back and they get back out on track. So I'm very excited for race 2 tonight.
Very, very exciting racing coming up. And a very, very exciting addition to iRacing over the last couple of days as well. May have seen it in our little break before, but we're going to show it again because it is very, very cool little video that iRacing has done for the launch of the newest feature to iRacing. Point-to-point rally racing is finally here on iRacing after talk of it for 10 plus years. It is here, Mount Washington road track, I guess the best way to describe it. The hill climb. That's the words I was looking for. The hill climb is finally here. Point-to-point racing is here on iRacing. With this little clip, when we come back, we race 2 of the Flat Sixes in V8SCOPS Support Series presented by RacingSims.co.nz.
Travis Pastrana here. iRacing, Climbing the Clouds, Mount Washington Hill Climb available now. Check it out.
Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.
This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up the wall!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?
Watching the V8SCOPS support series presented by racingsims.co.nz. An interesting race that we saw just then in the Trucking Legends series. I embarrassed myself magnificently there, but now we go back into the Porsches, the flat sixes for race 2 here. Reese Gardner with you in the commentary box with Bradley Wingard, and now, well, Brad, it's going to be business as usual, I think, for these guys, doing the exact same thing that they did just 10 minutes ago.
Oh, not quite exactly the same. This is, of course, a reverse grid race where every driver on the lead lap of last race is now reversed. So, God, I've gone blank. Isaac Edwards will be starting on the front row. And
Yes.
Riley Preston will be starting in 11th or 12th. So it's going to make a very big difference, especially that first lap or 2 laps. And no qualifying, obviously, we're straight into the grid. So I'll let you kick things off.
Indeed. Well, Isaac Edwards is going to start on the front row alongside Adam Moore. It's Mark Noble and Jaden Mollenhauer who start in 3rd and 4th. Simon Mazzomo and Luke Swan rounding out the top 6, and both of those guys will be looking for a better result this time around. Benjamin Faulkner and Thomas Hinz start on the 4th row there with Matt Danson and Daniel Yeaman. A titanic battle between them in race 1. How is it going to work out for them? Kobe Jones and Riley Preston will round out the top 12. Then we got John Courtney, Scott Stevens and Reese Harnell rounding out our field of drivers. Few less this time around. I think a few drivers have had enough, and they've decided to make their way out. So now we've got, albeit a smaller grid of drivers, certainly lots of potential for a great race. Let's see what Isaac Edwards can do here off the starting line. Here we go, away we go, and unfortunately it looks like a really bad start from Isaac Edwards. It looks like just getting swamped by the rest of the field on the way into turn 1 there, so leading the way is going to be Adam Moore, getting up the inside of Jaden Mollenhauer. As vaulting over the curbs there briefly was Thomas Hinz, and around goes Daniel Yeaman.
Yeah, we saw Daniel Yeaman have a very similar start to his scrap race the other night, getting turned very early on in the race, but no damage. Sorry,
Oh dear. Yeah, Scott Stevens getting turned by Luke Swan coming into the Villeneuve chicane, and it's going to be very unfortunate for the both of those. Not much in the way of good results coming for a lot of drivers in race 2 here, but Thomas Hinz remaining P5. Riley Preston now up 4 positions as he goes round the outside of Isaac Edwards, and diving to the inside is Kobe Jones. Side by side, the people who battled for the win in race 1 into Aqua Minerale. Oh my goodness, Riley Preston just edging ahead when they get to the turn-in point, but will Kobe Jones be able to get him back here at Variante Alta? It's defensive from the Evolution Racing Team driver. Jones on the racing line does not get alongside. They have to stay line astern for the time being, but Adam Moore continuing to hold on to the lead of this race here by about a second from Jaden Mollenhauer, as it's on for 3rd. Noble and Faulkner side by side, and Faulkner going around the outside in Ravazza. Fantastic move there, but it looks like Thomas Hinz, Matt Danson, Simon Mazzomo, they're all starting to get a little impatient here. They're being held up by these guys.
Yeah, that was a very, very interesting first race there. Perfectly shows the pros and the cons of reverse grid races. We've had an absolutely incredible race, but the difference in pace between the guys coming from the back as Simon Mazzomo goes defensive on the outside against Riley Preston.
Noble. Oh, going over the curb in Tamburello. He entered on the circuit in front of that pack you were just talking about, Brad. I'm sorry for talking over you, but man, that was almost disaster there for Riley Preston, Kobe Jones and Simon Mazzomo.
Replay of the start. See, Isaac Edwards doesn't get the launch he got last round, and that causes the entire mid-pack to check up. Daniel Yeaman outside the start of Tamburello. He gets tapped. Benjamin Faulkner, I believe, got a tap from behind and came into Daniel Yeaman, the middle part of Tamburello, which is not ideal, but no contact in the fence and a lot of movers still through that late pack on the run into Tamburello, and that's why we see the contact between Stevens and Luke Swan.
Yeah, it looked to me like Scott Stevens maybe got a bit of understeer on through the first part of Villeneuve, so I don't think it's entirely Luke Swan's fault there, but certainly he could have afforded to stay a bit further back there. Just a racing incident on lap 1, I would gather. Meanwhile, around we go, the final 2 turns to begin lap 3. Watching Riley Preston here as he's still up behind Jones, Mazzomo. Then we got the pack of Moore, Mollenhauer, Faulkner, Hinz and Danson, the top 5 just up ahead of these guys. And have a look at this, Mollenhauer and Faulkner side by side into turn 1. This could be beneficial here for Thomas Hinz and Matt Danson, but Faulkner holds on to that position there. Up into second now for Faulkner after starting in 7th. That's fantastic, as Mollenhauer now has to deal with Thomas Hinz here on board with championship leader. Trying side by side. That's what should have gone down between Scott Stevens and Luke Swan on lap 1. Giving each other a good amount of space, these two, and Mollenhauer gives Hinze all the room in the world to get the move done through Tosa. So Hinze now through. Unfortunately, that's costing Matt Danson and Kobe Jones some time here. Simon Mazzomo has fallen behind Preston and Jones, and Danson trying desperately to find his way past Mollenhauer here. It's a proper train.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and very well driven by both Mollenhauer and Thomas Hinz through the Villeneuve chicane. They gave each other just enough space, but of course, Hinze on the outside on exit got that run up the inside of Tosa, which is wide enough for 2 wide, but very difficult in cars like this. And Thomas Hinz very happy, I'm sure, to get past Mollenhauer before that real part of that middle section kicks in, whereas majority single file, it can be too wide, but it's not advised because it is such a intricate, very short run of corners. And Danson now really wanting to get past as he comes onto the main straight, because this is a very long train going from, what was that?
It's basically Hinz in second all the way back to Simon Mazzomo, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my timing wouldn't update, but yeah, it's a massive train of 7 cars fighting for that second spot.
Danson. Goodness me. Danson getting up alongside Faulkner there. My goodness, yeah, this battle pack is really harming the championship contenders, because Thomas Hinz is just scampering away at the moment. That was crucial, that move down at Rivazza on the last lap for Thomas Hinz on Benjamin Faulkner, because now it means that all these guys are holed up behind him, and Matt Danson will go for the move here at Tosa. Let's see if he's followed through by Cruisers. Hearing that Hinze is in the lead now. He's managed to get by Adam Moore. So Thomas Hinz on the way to big championship points here as Kobe Jones scythes past Benjamin Faulkner into Piratella. Simon Mazzomo just running wide there in the background, but now Riley Preston is going to have to get the elbows out potentially. He is a reasonably clean racer, is Riley Preston, but he's not averse to forcing the issue when in a tight battle pack. Let's see how he goes here versus Faulkner, as Mazzomo almost lined up a move there on Jaden Mollenhauer behind. But gradually these guys are making their way past as, oh no, that's Adam Moore. A bit slow as, oh my goodness, that is heavy into the wall there for Reese Harnell. That's a big shame for him. What on earth caused that? It looks to me like he just got a bit too much curb on in the chicane and went straight into the wall. The drivers around him had nothing to do with that, as falling further behind through Rivazza is, I think that is Luke Swan. as here is the move for the lead. Coming into Tosa, Thomas Hinds just phenomenal on the brakes. Made his way past Adam Moore, was beside him by the time they got to the apex, and Moore giving him a good amount of room for good measure. So there we go. That's Thomas Hinds now in the box seat to get maximum points here. And with Riley Preston still in 5th place, he'll be hoping that Benjamin Faulkner has the widest Porsche in Italy.
We replay now. So this is the run out of Aquaman Riley. Gets checked up. I believe that was Isaac Edwards and Daniel Yeaman behind. So Parnell is in the lead. Well, not in the lead, in front of this pack. And I think he just... I don't think there was contact from Yeaman. I think he just... No. I don't know what that was. If that was the curb or if he locked the brakes on landing. But yeah, the car just didn't want to turn at all.
Yeah, I think maybe just bucked sideways over the bump and the curb, and there wasn't much he could do to recover it either way. Reese Harnell off to a poor start here. He's down in 14th at the moment. Still up 1 from where he started. Mark Noble is currently the biggest loser in the field, down 12 positions after that torrid first lap for him. So now Danson has managed to make his way past Benjamin Faulkner and Kobe Jones. So it's a proper top 3 battle on at the moment, with Danson driving up to the back of Hinds gradually, lap on lap here. Let's check out the lap times. Well, Thomas Hinds, 44.372 on that lap. 43.628 for Matt Danson as he's in the draft, gets it done just before they get to the braking zone. And Hinsey will have to file back into 2nd place. But Matt Danson leading a V8 SCOPS support race for the first time here. Let's see how well he can do to hold on to it, because Hinsey has been managing to keep the pace up brilliantly in these opening few laps. Got to remember Kobe Jones and Riley Preston behind as well. Preston has a bit more ground to make up than Jones does, but this is certainly going to be a 4-way battle for the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Hinsey lifted coming into Tamburello at the start of this lap. I think he knew that Danson had the pace advantage, and obviously you have to consider race result or championship result, and I think it was very clear as day that Hinsey just chose race result then.
Yeah, trying to get the points, doesn't want to lose time battling with Danson or run the risk of them coming together and both of them coming away with no points at all. That's entirely possible. And the top 3 altogether out of Variante Alta, as that looks like Simon Mazzomo making the move on Jaden Mollenhauer. Move done at Variante Alta. Proper overtaking spot there, depending on how close you are. On board with Kobe as he looks forward at Hinsey and Danson, using all of the curb through Ravazza, all of the AstroTurf on the exit, trying to maximise the run onto this start-finish stretch. There's Riley Preston just behind in the blue and white Evolution Racing Team Porsche. What's going to happen here? Jones and Hinds are teammates. They don't want to get in each other's way too much. But it's entirely possible that if Jones lets Hinsey know that he has the pace, then Hinsey might think about race result again and just let him go. But having said that, he's got Preston right behind him, and that's crucial for the championship.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's, do you let Jones through to try and get a win for the team, or do you keep Jones behind to try and help buffer the championship as a rear gunner? But I don't know what... Oh, as we see Daniel Yeaman wide at Villeneuve is having a very awful run this race. I don't know if that... I don't think that was contact. No, it wasn't contact. He just got hung outside of Adam Moore. So no contact, just pushed out a little bit too wide, unfortunately. But as we see it now.
Indeed. Poor Daniel Yeaman. We got 2 things coming up here on the replay as, wow, yeah, he was compromised a bit there through Tamburello, going for the move at Villeneuve, and around the outside, oh, yeah, it doesn't look like there was contact, but the other car was certainly going through there at a good rate of knots. Meanwhile, staying on the replay, let's see what happened here. between Jones and Hinz. It looks like Jones has actually made his way through. So, yeah, there's Hinsey there. A big lift on the straight. He's definitely thinking about the result here. He wants to pick up the draft. Hopefully, Kobe Jones has the pace to stay with Danson, and they can try and gap Riley Preston.
You say that you hope he has the pace to catch up or match Danson. He's just gone quicker. He now has the fastest lap of the race. So Preston is catching at a rate of knots, to be honest. But Kobe Jones does have the fastest lap of the race now, in behind Danson, only half a second between them. So probably Danson run wide. He's not a fan of Villeneuve today.
No, he's made all of his biggest errors there, hasn't he, as they're side by side on the exit. Kobe getting a slightly better run there on the wider line. He was able to straighten the wheel out a little sooner, but Danson is going to force the issue here into Piratella, side by side, and contact as Jones sent out onto the AstroTurf, has to yield the position. Danson is not going to give up this lead easily.
No, and I don't exactly blame him. He definitely has the pace to keep that lead. It's just whether he can keep it on the black stuff, the fast stuff, and unfortunately, Villeneuve seems to be his Achilles heel today, and round the outside of Piratella, like 2 wide around Piratella, is very doable, because then you become the inside for Aquaman or Riley, and the outside almost always has to yield, because like we saw with Hinsey last race, if you touch the grass on the outside, then you end up going backwards, and that's not the direction you want to be going, and you usually hit the fence on the inside of the uphill run. So it is doable around Piratella, but didn't quite have the run that he needed to Jones, but he does have the run now, coming down the main straight to start lap 9. It's 1/10, 2/10, it's hovering around there. He's looking early, but I think he's going to tuck in behind for now, and he does.
Yeah, just keeping it calm there. Going to wait a lap or two for Danson to make a mistake, which he kind of just did, or let the tyres come back down in temperature so you can take a bit more out of them later on to try and get your way past. So into Tosa, does he go for the move? No, the door was left open by Danson there, but Jones did not take it. And it looks like a reasonable exit from the both of them. Thomas Hinz is starting to lose touch with these two. You can see him there having to look over his shoulder a bit versus Riley Preston. So it could be 2 by 2 in the battle for the top 4 here. Let's see whether or not Matt Danson can hold off the advances of Kobe Jones, and if he gets passed by Kobe Jones, then will he be able to stay with him is the big question, because it seems that Jones has an awful lot of pace under his belt, and he's looking very comfortable in that car.
Yeah, he absolutely is. He's so far having a much better run than he had last race, and I mean, that sounds like he had an awful run. He didn't. He made a couple of mistakes, but he's running in second again, like he was last race. And he's right on the back of Danson. There's nothing between the two of them still. So, yeah, this battle for first place is entirely.
Oh, Hinsey! Oh, sorry, Hinsey just caught the grass on the exit of Ravazza, and that's allowed Riley Preston by him. That's the worst place for that kind of error to be made. If you get into the runoff at all, it compromises your run down the entire straight. Hinsey's going to stay with Preston, but I think he'll be ruining that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that Hinsey can hope for now is just stick with Riley, catch up to the back of Danson and Jones, and let them fight, and then just Moses.
Oh, a mistake from Danson. He's off at Villeneuve. His favourite corner to go off, it seems, and he's back into third now, having to go defensive versus Thomas Hinz. And that will promote Kobe Jones into the lead of the race. And now Riley Preston has a yardstick here, as he's only one position away from another win here tonight if he can keep up his pace. Hinz, though, not able to get by Danson there. Has to settle for fourth for now, but how much is he going to push the issue?
I don't know. I'm wondering if Hinsey's thinking, well, you know, Danson has made a couple of mistakes this race and more last race at Villeneuve Chicane. So if I sit here I have a shoe-in for a podium pretty easily, but half the trouble of that is sticking with Danson, because he's not exactly a slow road racer, even though it's not his primary category, and he kept the 3 of them behind him for 8 laps, 9 laps.
Yeah, something to that effect, and here's the mistake. He was just slightly offline coming into Villeneuve and had no choice but to go straight on and into the gravel, and well, he kept himself right in there with the battle with Hinz. We'll see it here on the onboard. So he was across the curb okay, but I think the car was just a bit unsettled when he got on the brakes there. Maybe he went in a little too hard because the fronts just weren't cooperating.
Yeah, you could see that wiggle is go further back for a bit of a move through the Villeneuve chicane. That
Luke Swan and Jaden Mollenhauer, as we're hearing that Kobe Jones is out. Okay, something has gone horribly wrong for the number 25. Was this a technical issue, I wonder? Yeah, I've just gone back to check, and Jay has said in my ear, yeah, Kobe, he just lifted off out of the Villeneuve chicane and then disappeared off the circuit. So there has been a hardware issue or a internet issue there for Kobe Jones. He has lost the lead of this race, and he is pretty much out now. So that means that Matt Danson and Thomas Hinz both have 1 extra position to fight for here, and Mazomo getting a good run on of pace. He didn't have the best of races in race 1, but here he's really starting to jet his way up. Of course, he's had to make up a couple of positions along the way. He's back to where he started, but he could be on for a podium here if there are problems further ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, both of these races, this race especially, is not exactly being as straightforward as you would expect, with Kobe now disconnecting for whatever reason that may be. iRacing has crashed, so that is... They say that we don't have, you know, the mechanical side of iRacing. Well, mechanical side of racing failures, but we have hardware failures still, and it ruins a race just like that, like it would in real life. And Mazomo trying to tease the move into the Villeneuve chicane, which is, it's kind of
unsettled him.
Yeah, it absolutely has, and he's not quite there yet, but he's getting into Faulkner's head, and it's very easy to do, like a bit of a fake show here and there, and he's actually caught the grass on Exeter's Faulkner. So Mazomo having a nice run up the hill, trying to jostle him out of the prime position, and settles for the inside and gets the move done. Very well done by Mazomo. I don't know if all of that was intentional or not, but he's a man of experience, and it showed there. That was very, very well driven by Mazomo to get that position made in the fashion that he did.
And a brief sigh of relief there for Simon Mazomo on the Zoom webcam call. Seems reasonably focused out there, does Simon, and he's got a fair bit of work to do to catch up to Thomas Hinz up ahead. Mazomo is just coming into Ravazza 1 now. Hinzi is past pit lane entry, so quite the gap to make up in just 10 laps. But anything is possible, especially considering that Matt Danson is staying with Riley Preston here. And we're hearing that Reese Harnell also had hardware issues. That's why we saw him down the order a bit earlier. So Matt Danson for Logitech G Altus Esports chasing down Riley Preston for Evolution Racing Team. These teams have quite the history together. Evolution Racing Team is actually the father of Altus Esports. Altus was started by a group of former ERT drivers who decided they'd like to go it alone, and here we are. Altus Esports has come in leaps and bounds to become basically Australia's premier sim racing team internationally in a sim racing sense. So Danson joining up with them recently has certainly shown that he belongs in that stable. He's not losing out to Riley Preston all that much here. The gap is staying at about 6-7 tenths of a second, and Danson was actually quicker on the last lap than Preston was. And when it comes to best lap times, well, Riley Preston, 1 minute 43.68. Matt Danson, 1 minute 43.62. So, there is still life in this race in the lead.
Yeah, there absolutely is. We are coming up with 8 laps to go once we tick over, so plenty of racing indeed. That's about 12-13 minutes of racing, give or take, as Danson gives them the little look on the inside, but obviously way too far back for that move. But yeah, obviously Altus, like you were saying, they're probably Australia's biggest team in terms of international presence, because they have Tim Ryan on dirt ovals, and Matt Danson and co on the ovals, and Bo Albert doing rallycross, and then all of their road drivers as well, and all of them combined through all of those as well. So Matt Danson, like you said, absolutely showing that he deserves to be in that team, because not only is he quick on a oval, he is absolutely giving it to Riley Preston this race in a cup car, which is something that I don't think he's driven a whole lot of, but obviously a lot of the guys are trying to get into the Pro Porsche series with qualifying on at the moment, so I'm sure he's had a lot of company in that car to practice for races like this.
Oh, for sure, and Altus certainly take that seriously, as do teams like Coanda and various other big sim racing outfits like Team Redline that dominate in that particular area, as Danson starting to ramp up the pressure on Preston here. I've noticed that Danson is going a little bit harder into every turn, carrying a bit more speed up towards the apex, but Preston is getting him, or staying level, on the exits. So he's just taking a little bit less out of it on entry as Preston, and then you see him start to pull away in the acceleration zone. But Danson is close enough here that the draft comes into effect, and have a look at how powerful it is. You see Preston just getting larger and larger and larger, and is this going to be a move? I think Preston might have lifted off here as he lets Danson go into the first turn. Might have been a tactical lift there from Riley.
The words right out of my mouth. I was thinking, 7 laps to go. If Riley can just stay with Danson, maybe. Yeah. Unless Danson makes another mistake through Villeneuve, which he doesn't. But, sitting very middle of the track and tries to hold it around the outside, but Preston getting back through. I was thinking the exact same thing as you. He's not over yet, my God.
Wow.
Let's come back to that thought once this move is finished.
Yeah. I mean, if they're continuing to fight each other like this, then I don't know if it was really a tactical lift. Maybe Danson just had a huge draft there on Riley. Either way, he's into the lead now, and seems to me he's looking reasonably comfortable as Preston loses out a little bit more there on the exit of Acqua Minerale. Well, let's see what happens, Brad, when they get to the start-finish straight, because that's where the slipstream is strongest.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the draft down that main straight is so much bigger in cars like this, I feel, than, say, the GT cars we had in the VRS series we covered a couple of weeks ago, because that was big, but the amount of time that Matt Danson gained at the end of last lap and start of this lap was just phenomenal. So we'll see if Preston can do similarly. He's a tenth further back than Danson was last time by, but even then that gap is slowly shrinking. So maybe that was a tactical lift by Preston going into Tamburello, thinking, I don't know if this is what you were thinking, but I think, if he stays in there with 2 laps to go and then passes him at the start of the white flag lap, then it's going to be a lot harder for Danson to get past at the end of that white flag lap, and it'll secure him the win rather than the reverse happening. So might have been a tactical lift after all, but I guess we'll find out in 5 laps.
Indeed, yeah, you took the words out of my mouth there. That's exactly what I was thinking, because it's part of the nature of the track, isn't it? Like, going down that start-finish straight, you come alongside into Tamburello, and that is your move done. But if you're the car that falls in behind on the exit of Tamburello, it's going to be much more difficult to get your way back past before the end of the lap unless the rival makes a mistake. So we'll keep an eye on Riley Preston here, see if he continues to hang back or he starts to pressure Danson again. And what will happen when they cross the line to start the white flag lap? Will that be when Preston makes the move? Either way, this is the closest battle out on track at the moment, the battle for the lead. Everyone else has fallen a bit by the wayside here, with Kobe Jones and Reese Harnell having their technical issues, Mark Noble having his issues at the start of the race. And you've also got to think about Thomas Hinds, who has fallen out of favour a little bit in the last few laps since Danson and Preston started battling and Jones disconnected. He's not been able to keep up with them in that sense. So 43.5 for Danson, 43.7 for Preston, and a 44.6 for Thomas Hinds. Yeah, he's having a bit of trouble extracting the pace out of that thing, but I reckon it's like we said for Thomas Hinds, earlier on in the race. He's thinking about championship points here. He just wants to get the car to the finish.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's got a roughly a 10-second buffer back to Simon Mizomo, who's lapping very similar lap times. So a podium result is not awful for Hinsey. He'll lose a few more points to Preston, but it's not as bad as, say, if he was Kobe Jones, who disconnected, who's just behind him on track, but 5 laps down. But this race for the lead that is on screen now isn't over yet. We still have 4.5 laps to go, and Danson has struggled through the Villeneuve chicane, and I mean Preston didn't really struggle last race, but he's sitting there at the moment. So if Danson does make another mistake and accidentally trips over Preston, Hinsey's in the lead again, or if Preston makes a mistake, Hinsey gets past again. So we've still got about 7 or 8 minutes of racing, 4 laps and 3 corners, if you count the last little kink before the start line. But there's plenty of racing and plenty of opportunities to make a mistake from anyone in the field. So it could be, big swing of the championship, or it could be a couple of points, but I guess we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Counting the braking zones on this place, this is the first one. As we go to a virtual racing school replay, something has gone on out on track, and it looks like that's Scott Stevens who has found the wall. It has not been a good night for Scotty, one of the founders of Fusion Sim Racing. What happened to him here through Tamburello? He was a little bit slower than usual through the first part of the turn. So this has obviously gone on down at the Villeneuve chicane. So he avoids the curbs, he keeps it nice and steady, but he just catches the grass there on the exit of the chicane and heavy into the wall. I think that is that car just about done. Scotty, at the very least, is going to have to take that thing in for repairs.
Yeah, the car is looking a lot less straight than it was about a minute and a half ago, that's for sure. But thankfully, it went nose in, and these cars obviously have the engine at the back, but still that steering is at the front and the brakes at the front. So yeah, as he comes into the pits now, I think that's pretty much race over for him, unfortunately.
So I was going to say, I count 7 braking zones around this circuit. There's obviously the one into Tamburello, there's this one coming into Ravazza, then you got the zone into Villeneuve, into Tosa. I'd say I'd count the approach to Piratella as a braking zone, because you've got to jump on the brakes in these things at least to get it slowed down for that. Then Acaminerali, then Variante Alta. So 7 braking zones times 3, which is how many to go. That is 21 opportunities here for Riley Preston to fling one up the inside of Matt Danson, or at least gain a bit more time on him. But as we've said, he might be waiting for the final lap to pull a move into the braking zone for turn 1.
Yeah, he might do, and I don't know about you, but I have to brake for Ravazza as well. If you can take that without braking, then you are some sort of god. But That would
I
make
think in
that
the Formula V
braking
you
zones.
could do it.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, catch a little bit of the grass on the outside just to slow the car down and bang it in. I'm sure you'd be fine. But unfortunately, these cars, you do have to brake for Ravazza as well. So, but I don't think he's going to make the move there if he's going to make a move not into Tamburello. I think it's either going to be Tamburello, or maybe if he doesn't get passed by Tamburello at the start of the last lap, then he might go for a send into Ravazza on the last lap. But I don't quite think he's close enough. He kind of has a pace advantage, but I don't think it's quite enough. His last lap was his fastest though, by 9/1000ths of a second over Danson, so...
Yeah, so that's Matt Danson and Riley Preston trading fastest lap of the race honours there. These two are matching each other really well, I have to say. Like, you know, Danson, you didn't get his night off to the best of starts, yes, and he has been making mistakes tonight, but I think here in the dying stages of race 2, he's sorted out whatever issues have been plaguing him, and he's putting on a magnificent drive at the moment, keeping Riley Preston behind. It's certainly not bad for someone who mainly races in oval racing. You usually see him driving in stock car events and stuff like that. So 2 to go now, and oh, just as I say that, Danson a little compromised on the exit of Villeneuve. Preston has a little look. Danson defensive around the inside of Tosa. Let's see what kind of exit they both get. They're reasonably even on the exit, and certainly not a passing opportunity at this stage into Piratella. If Preston was alongside, he might have been able to make it work, but they'll have to stay line astern again for the time being, and they're going to start to come up on a bit of lap traffic here because Isaac Edwards is just up ahead of them. Will they catch him before the end of the final lap is the big question, and that could certainly define the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaac is he's well known in the community. He's a very clean racer. I'm sure if these guys do catch him, he'll try and get out of the way as quickly as possible, but sometimes that is at the detriment to the lapping car as well. So he's had a couple of spins this race as Isaac, so we'll see what happens.
As Jaden Mollenhauer makes a mistake here on the replay, and that allows Luke Swan by. That's for P6. So Mollenhauer, oh, he's actually gotten back past Luke Swan just as we go back to live pictures. Those guys will be fighting towards the end, but it is the final lap here for our 2 leaders, and Isaac Edwards is going to lift off there and let both of them go coming into Tamburello. So Riley Preston, the big question is, when is he going to make that move on Matt Danson? Does he have enough left in the car to make that move? We're on board now with the former iRacing Open Wheel World Championship competitor, and it's another mistake from Danson. Out of Villeneuve, they are side by side into the braking zone for Tosa. Can Danson hold on here on the inside? Puts down the power and gets the momentum down on Riley Preston, but he's going to have to give him the space there. Just slots in ahead. Will Preston go for a dive? Not at this point, not at Piratella. He's waiting on a mistake from Danson here. Time for Aqua Minerale. Got to be careful of the grass on driver's left. If either of them catches it, it's race over. They both managed to avoid it, and they both managed to avoid the slowdown penalty out of the corner complex as well. Big move for Riley Preston behind, weaving in the mirrors, trying to psych Danson out and flying over the curbs, the both of them. Wondering if that was enough for a slowdown for Danson. It doesn't seem like it is. So he's only got 1 braking zone left and 2 proper corners to go. Preston, I think, is a bit too far back to get the move done here. He glides up to the back of Danson in the braking zone, but it's just not enough. Matt Danson will put the power down one last time, go up through the gears, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, and take his first victory in the V8SCOPS Support Series presented by RacingSims.co.nz. Altus is back on top.
Oh my god, I nearly forgot that I was commentating then. That was insane to watch. Listening to you talk about that, oh man, that was brilliant finish. Danson made it interesting, that's for sure, but Preston easily could have centered it so at Piratella or Aqua Minerale, he looked at Variante Ultra. He could have sent it down the inside of Ravazza. Sorry, I need to catch my head for a second then. But absolute pure class by both of those guys to finish the way that they did. And
all right. Mollenhauer and Swan again. We're hearing that the timing had a little bit of a glitch there that gave Jay a bit of a heart attack as Yeaman hard on the brakes across the line. He's going to be very unhappy with how tonight has gone down for him. After a solid result in race 1, he was nowhere in race 2 after that contact with Hinz on the opening lap. Time for the results then. By 0.2 of a second, Matt Danson takes it from Riley Preston, with Hinz completing the podium. Simon Mazzomo ends up coming home 4th in the end. A fantastic result there for the Fitzstein Motorsport driver. Faulkner brings his race on Oscar home in 5th. Luke Swan in 6th, beating Jaden Mollenhauer there. Daniel Yeaman coming home a further 12 seconds behind in 8th place, with Adam Moore and John Courtney rounding out the top 10.
Isaac Edwards, the first car a lap down, as we saw in 11th place. Scott Stevens, after his unfortunate accident at Villeneuve, finishes 12th, 5 laps down. Kobe Jones, on his recovery, finishes 5 laps down as well. Mark Noble, 7 laps down. And Reese Hunnell, after his very unfortunate accident early on, not finishing 14 laps off of the lead drivers.
Well, it's a night of mixed fortunes for many of our drivers here tonight, and I think the happiest of everyone would have to still be Riley Preston. Matt Danson, I think, will be absolutely stoked with that race 2 victory, but Preston, with a win and a second tonight, that's still a fantastic championship points haul for him. He's going to maintain that championship lead over Thomas Hinz. We're going to wait here for Danson to do his victory celebrations, and I have to say I do hope that Danson makes further appearances in this series, because it's great to see Riley Preston racing hard with these guys up at the top. Certainly makes the championship fight all the sweeter between he and Hinz.
Yeah, it's very close at the top now. Apparently there's only 6 points between second and third, so more racing from the 4 of them and others as the season goes on. Mizomo obviously finishing 4th, which is a good result for him. So if he manages to bring it up as well, and Daniel Yeaman had pace in race 1, so having him up there as well is going to make a very, very interesting next couple of races for that championship fight.
Absolutely will, and looks like we have Matt Danson awaiting an interview, so we'll bring him in here for a bit of a chat. Matt Danson, welcome to the commentary box, mate, and congratulations on your first victory in V8SCOPS supports. That was quite the battle that you had with Riley Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Reese. Yeah, that was intense. I knew I was in his way, in that second chicane, because I'd hit the turtles, or whatever you want to call them, about how many laps do we have? 21. I think I hit him about 19 times in the first race, so I wanted to avoid that as much as I could, and so I was sacrificing a lot of lap speed to survive. And then I think two of the last 3 laps I almost threw it straight off the track. So yeah, it was pretty rough, but it was lots of fun though.
Yeah, certainly. We're looking at your car on the broadcast now, and it does have a few battle scars on it, but hey, sometimes the most beautiful race cars are the ones that come home in P1 with battle scars. So this is your first appearance in V8SCOPS supports, and the flat sixes at the very least. Is there a particular reason you're going for racing in this series? Brad did mention that a lot of drivers are practicing for the Porsche Esports Super Cup that's coming up soon. Does your turnout here have anything to do with that?
No. It probably doesn't make any sense, but my reasoning was just to try and get better understanding of this track with the enduro coming up in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll be there with Old Man River, Simon. So I've got to make sure that I can hold up my end of the bargain as well. So just trying to get a couple of extra laps, and I guess, you know, it's one thing to practice, but to actually race around, you know, others and sort of have the heat put on you, and I mean, we got that tenfold here. So just getting those reps under my belt, and yeah, I think it worked pretty good, actually.
Righto. So you think that that this has gotten your eye in for Sunday?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think so. We'll see. It seems like the pace difference between, like, I'm looking at the pre-qual times at the moment. The pace difference between these cars isn't massive, and certainly it feels like a lot of the markers are roughly, you know, around about there. So yeah, I feel like it definitely helped me get my eye in. But, you know, all the pressure's going to be on Simon's shoulders. I'm just going to get there, get the minimum out the way, and then see what happens.
Of course, Matt is talking about Simon Feigl there, the manager of Altus Esports. So can we expect you to make more appearances in the V8SCOPS supports in the future, considering that, you know, if you have a drive for this Enduro, you must have one for the other two? Yeah,
I actually really enjoyed driving. This is only the second time that I've driven the Porsche, and it actually was a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely, if I have the track, I'll come to them. So I assume there's Phillip Island and Bathurst, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I'm horrible at Phillip Island, so it'll surely help to get some laps in before that. But yeah, definitely, I'll come back. Yeah, for sure.
All right, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to speak to you again. But before we let you go, Matt Danson, is there anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage at Altus?
Of course, you know, obviously we've got Logitech G, Virtual Racing School, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, Racetech Seats, Sam Blacklock Media, and Own Live. Of course, you guys. You know, I'll go back and watch this certainly with more enjoyment than I will watching the first one, because I choked that away pretty badly. But you know, Riley was crazy quick, and you know, I hate it as well for Kobe. I don't know what happened there. I think system issues or something sort of bit him, so that was really unfortunate. But yeah, you know, I'll go back and watch that, and yeah, hopefully you said lots of fun things about me.
Certainly did, Matt. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we can catch you next time. That's Matt Danson, winner here in race 2. So it looks like that is going to be the only driver interview we have for tonight. So I think this is going to be a good opportunity to wrap things up here at Imola. Bradley, what a great night of racing there in the Porsches, particularly in race 2. I thought that the battling that we saw between Danson and Preston was simply fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. And if that's a precursor to what we're going to see on Sunday, I cannot wait, because 45 cars compared to, what did we have, 15? So 3 times as many cars on track, a lot heavier, different balance. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch for 5 times as much racing, which is even better. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we are talking about the V8SCOPS Imola 500, part of the Endurance Cup. That's happening on Sunday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I believe, right here on YouTube. And we will have the full field shootout for that as well. Of course, we're going to go to Phillip Island for the next round of the V8SCOPS support series. We've got the V8s and the Legends racing there. So Matt Danson will be able to get a bit more familiarity in with a V8 style of racing there. Let's see how well the drivers do. But either way, we're going to catch you in a V8SCOPS sense on Sunday. My name's Reese Gardner. It was Bradley Wingard alongside me, and we certainly give our big thanks to racingsims.co.nz for their support of this magnificent series. We'll see you next time here on SimSpeed TV.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's over the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?